Good morning. It's another beautiful morning in Glen Eden in Auckland here today. My name's Simon Johnson, and I've been testing out some live stream platforms in the last few days. Mostly been using Facebook in actual fact, but I thought I'd give YouTube a go today as well. Mostly been using it for work. I work for a mission agency, sending Christian missionaries to different parts of the world, in particular sending them to East Asia. And so we've had a bit of a change in circumstance. A lot of our missionaries not able to head back to the countries they would like to go to. A number of the missionaries are stuck here in New Zealand now, and obviously the ones who are in lockdown situations in different parts of the world are not able to do the regular work that they're doing at the moment either. So yeah, it's quite a interesting time we find ourselves in. I was just reading from the Bible this morning. My regular quiet time that I do each morning. I was reading from the book of Isaiah. I generally read a bit from New Testament, a bit from Old Testament, and sometimes something from a psalm as well in the mornings. And today I was reading from Isaiah 24, the Lord's devastation of the earth. Oh, sounds quite dramatic, but it did speak to me, and not wanting to be a prophet of doom, anything like that, but I think we do need to consider really what God is doing during these times. Had a home group last week, and the guy that was leading the home group, church home group, asked the question, what are we praying for during this time? Are we praying that all the earth will be saved? Are we praying that God will stop this coronavirus spreading around New Zealand? Or are we praying that the Lord's glory will be revealed? And I think it's a very interesting question. From Isaiah 24, headed up the Lord's devastation of the earth. I won't read it all, it's quite long, but from verse 1 to 3 in the first instance. See, the Lord is going to lay waste to the earth and devastate it. He will ruin its face and scatter its inhabitants. It will be the same for priest as for people, for master as for a servant, for mistress as for her servant, for seller as for buyer, for borrower as for lender, for debtor as for creditor. The earth will be completely laid to waste and totally plundered. The Lord has spoken this word. Now, I'm not saying that during this pandemic it's God that's totally plundering the earth, but if you do accept, as Christians do, that the Lord is sovereign, that he is totally in control, then you have to accept the fact that the Lord has allowed this. God has allowed this to happen. And there is a sense of plundering, of waste, of devastation in the earth. Not total by any means, but it's a very serious situation we find ourselves in. From Isaiah 24, it goes on. Mostly it's quite negative. No longer do they drink wine with song. The beer is bitter to its drinkers. The ruined city lies desolate, etc., etc., etc. But in verses 14 through 16, there is a sense of hope. When we read from verse 14, they raise their voices, they shout for joy. From the west, they acclaim the Lord's majesty. Therefore, in the east, give glory to the Lord. Exalt the name of the Lord, the God of Israel, in the islands of the sea. From the ends of the earth, we hear singing, glory to the righteous one. So there is the sense of, even in the time of devastation, even in the time of the Lord laying waste to the earth, there is still the sense of joy, of worship, of uprising, of singing. And interesting to note, it's coming from the islands at the ends of the sea. That's kind of nice from New Zealand's perspective. And I haven't looked in any depth to the context of this prophecy. That's just interesting to note. But ultimately, the section here in Isaiah 24 does go on with continued devastation, terror and the pit and the snare await you, the people of the earth. They flee at the sound of terror. They fall into a pit. Whoever wants to climb out of the pit will be caught in a snare, not sounding good at all. And finally, the section of Isaiah 24 ends like this. The moon will be dismayed, the sun will be ashamed, for the Lord Almighty will reign. On Mount Zion and in Jerusalem, before its elders, the Lord will reign with great glory. And I think ultimately that's what we have to continue to hope and pray, that in all of this, God will be given the glory. Yes, it's tough times. Yes, there is a certain sense of devastation happening around the world, but I'd like to encourage you, as we read in in Isaiah 24 right there, I'd like to encourage you to continue to draw your strength from God, to continue to praise Him, to worship Him, to give Him glory, because ultimately He is in control. He knows what He's doing. We can rely and trust on Him to do the things that He wants to do during this time. Thanks very much for watching this. Kia ora koutou katoa. Thanks very much. Mihi nui kia koutou. Thank you for watching. I'll see you again next time. YouTube streaming, live streaming, quite easy, quite good. Maybe there's less people on the internet at the moment, but worked quite well. Bye-bye.